Did Jesus descend to hell? A biblical and theological analysis. Did Jesus really descend to hell after his death? This question has sparked debates among theologians, pastors, and believers for centuries. Some say he went to preach to lost souls, others claim he simply rested in the grave. But what does the Bible actually teach? In this video, we will dive deep into scripture, historical church teachings, and theological perspectives to uncover the truth. By the end, you'll have a clear and well-grounded understanding of this controversial topic, one that will strengthen your faith and help you answer this question with confidence. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover might challenge everything you've heard before. Biblical passages, 1:30 to 6 o'clock. One of the most debated aspects of whether Jesus descended to hell comes from several biblical passages that seem to reference this event. Let's examine three key texts that contribute to this discussion. 1 Peter 3 verses 18 to 20, preaching to the spirits in prison. This passage states, "For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh but made alive in the Spirit, in which he went and proclaimed to the spirits in prison, because they formerly did not obey, when God's patience waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was being prepared." 1 Peter 3 verses 18 to 20, ESV. This text has been widely interpreted in different ways. Some believe it means that after his death, Jesus went to the realm of the dead and proclaimed victory over fallen spirits. Others suggest that this refers to Christ's Spirit speaking through Noah during the time of the flood, warning people of judgment. The ambiguity of the phrase "spirits in prison" has led to much theological debate. Ephesians 4 verses 8 to 10, descend into the lower parts of the earth. Paul writes, "Therefore it says, when he ascended on high he led a host of captives, and he gave gifts to men." In saying, he ascended, what does it mean but that he had also descended into the lower regions, the earth? He who descended is the one who also ascended far above all the heavens, that he might fill all things. Ephesians 4 verses 8 to 10, ESV. This passage references Christ's descent before his ascension. Some scholars interpret the lower parts of the earth as a reference to Christ's burial, while others see it as an indication that he descended to Hades or Sheol. This interpretation aligns with the idea that Jesus may have gone to the realm of the dead to proclaim victory over sin and death. Acts 2 verses 27 and 31, Peter quoting Psalm 16 verse 10. During his sermon at Pentecost, Peter references Psalm 16 verse 10. "For you will not abandon my soul to Hades, or let your Holy One see corruption." Psalm 16 verse 10, ESV. Peter applies this to Jesus, stating, "He foresaw and spoke about the resurrection of the Christ, that he was not abandoned to Hades, nor did his flesh see corruption." Acts 2 verse 31, ESV. This passage affirms that Jesus entered Hades but was not left there. While it does not explicitly state what he did in Hades, it confirms that his soul experienced this reality before his resurrection. These passages contribute to the complex theological discussion about Jesus' descent after his death. Some traditions argue that he proclaimed victory over fallen angels and the damned, while others suggest he announced salvation to the righteous dead. The interpretation of these texts significantly impacts how one understands the Apostles' Creed statement, "He descended to the dead." Luke 23 verse 43, Jesus tells the thief on the cross, "Today you will be with me in paradise." One of the most cited verses in discussions about Jesus' descent is Luke 23 verse 43. Here, Jesus assures the repentant thief that they will be together in paradise on that very day. This statement has led many to conclude that Jesus' spirit went immediately to a place of blessedness after his death rather than to a place of torment. Matthew 12 verse 40, Jesus compares his burial to Jonah in the belly of the great fish. In Matthew 12 verse 40, Jesus says, "For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Some interpret heart of the earth as a reference to Hades or Sheol, the realm of the dead, suggesting that Jesus did descend there in some capacity. 3. Theological interpretations, 6 to 12 o'clock. Traditional view, Apostles' Creed, he descended into hell. What did the early church believe? The Apostles' Creed, an early Christian statement of faith, explicitly states that Jesus descended into hell. The early church fathers generally understood this to mean that Jesus went to the realm of the dead. Some interpreted this as a literal descent to Sheol/Hades, where he proclaimed victory over sin and death. Reformed and evangelical view, Jesus went to Hades, the realm of the dead, but not necessarily hell, Gehenna. Many Protestant theologians differentiate between Hades, the temporary abode of the dead, and Gehenna, the place of final judgment and punishment. According to this view, Jesus went to Hades to proclaim victory but did not suffer in hell. Instead, he affirmed his triumph over death and awaited his resurrection. Catholic and Orthodox views, harrowing of hell, Jesus liberating the righteous souls from Sheol. In Catholic and Eastern Orthodox traditions, the harrowing of hell is a key doctrine. This teaching holds that Jesus descended to Sheol to liberate the righteous souls who had died before his atonement. This aligns with passages like 1 Peter 3 verses 18 to 20, which speak of Jesus preaching to the spirits in prison. Alternative view, the descent refers to Christ's humiliation and suffering, not a literal trip to hell. Some theologians argue that he descended into hell should be understood metaphorically. They see it as a reference to Jesus' suffering and death rather than a literal descent into the underworld. This interpretation aligns with the broader biblical theme of Jesus' humiliation and subsequent exaltation, Philippians 2 verses 5 to 11. Common misconceptions. Hell versus Hades versus Sheol, are they the same? One common misconception is that hell, Hades, and Sheol all refer to the same place. However, these terms have distinct meanings in biblical texts. Sheol, Hebrew in the Old Testament, Sheol is described as the realm of the dead, a shadowy place where all souls go, both righteous and wicked, Psalm 6 verse 5, Ecclesiastes 9 verse 10. Hades, Greek in the New Testament, Hades is the Greek equivalent of Sheol, often used to describe the intermediate state of the dead before the final judgment, Luke 16 verse 23, Revelation 20 verses 13 to 14. Hell, Gehenna. Unlike Sheol and Hades, Gehenna refers to the place of final judgment and eternal punishment for the wicked, Matthew 10 verse 28, Mark 9 verse 43. This is distinct from the temporary state of the dead. Did Jesus suffer in hell? Addressing theological errors. Another misconception is that Jesus suffered in hell after his death. This idea is largely based on a misunderstanding of passages like 1 Peter 3 verses 18 to 20 and the phrase in the Apostles' Creed, "He descended into hell." Biblical clarification: the Bible does not teach that Jesus suffered in hell. Instead, his cry on the cross, "It is finished," John 19 verse 30, indicates that his atoning work was completed at his death. 1 Peter 3 verses 18 to 20, this passage states that Jesus preached to the spirits in prison. Many scholars interpret this as Christ proclaiming victory over sin and death to fallen angels or to the spirits of the dead, not suffering further punishment. Ephesians 4 verses 8 to 10, this passage speaks of Christ descending into the lower parts of the earth, which some interpret as his mission to the realm of the dead, not suffering in hell. Does this affect salvation doctrine? Understanding this issue correctly is crucial for maintaining sound theology. The sufficiency of the cross. If Jesus had to suffer in hell to complete salvation, it would imply that his death on the cross was not enough. However, Scripture affirms that Christ's sacrifice was fully sufficient. Hebrews 10 verses 10 to 14. Victory, not torment. Jesus' descent was not to suffer, but to declare his triumph over death and the grave. Colossians 2 verse 15. The danger of theological error. Misinterpreting this doctrine can lead to confusion about the nature of Christ's work and undermine confidence in the completed work of salvation. By understanding these distinctions, we can avoid common errors and maintain a biblically sound view of Christ's work in his death and resurrection. Conclusion and call to action, 15 to 1700 hours. We have seen them throughout this video. The question of whether Jesus descended to hell is complex and involves different biblical and theological interpretations. We explore key passages such as 1 Peter 3 verses 18 to 20 and Ephesians 4 verses 8 to 10, analyze historical creeds, and consider the views of scholars and theologians over the centuries. No matter which position you take, this topic will inspire us, invites us to reflect on the depth of Christ's sacrifice and the scope of the redemption he offers. More important than theological differences is the certainty that, through his death and resurrection, Jesus conquered sin and death, guaranteeing salvation to those who believe in him. Now, we want to hear your opinion. What do you think about this question? Did Jesus really descend into hell, or is this interpretation mistaken? Leave your comment below and share your thoughts. If you want to deepen your study, we recommend reading works such as Apostles' Creed, A Guide to the Ancient Catechism by Ben Myers, or The Death of Death and the Death of Christ by John Owen. Also, check out other videos on our channel about theological topics, such as the nature of hell and the doctrine of the atonement. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more biblical and theological analyses. Activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos. Until next time.